All right, we're live. We're back at it again with another afternoon Ask Anything. I'm Taylor. We got Dale and Gerard. We actually have a full lineup of Penguins, Pirates, Steelers. We haven't had that. I think the past couple I've done, we've had to answer some Pirates questions without you, Gerard. But we'll be here for the next half an hour, taking your questions, anything Pittsburgh sports. We're brought to you, as always, by Mike's Beer Bar and the North Shore Tavern. Right now, the new thing at North Shore Tavern, they always have steak on a stone, different things on the stone. Right now, it's a 6-ounce Kobe on a stone. Same size. You can get the jumbo shrimp or the scallops. So check them out. North Shore Tavern, Mike's Beer Bar. Gerard, where are you? Are you in St. Louis?
No, I'm in Atlanta now. They start a series with the Braves tonight. Second time in Atlanta this week. Delta, gotta love them. This was my layover city on the way to St. Louis, and then right back to Atlanta.
I'm in Pittsburgh. Penguins are on the road in New York, but the Islanders, the Nassau Coliseum, it's a dump, and it's so small. There's limits to how many visiting media can come. So Dave and Dan are there for us. So they'll have coverage tonight, morning skate. Looks like Malcolm's going to be back tonight, so that's big. Dale, what are you up to?
I'm just hanging out, trying to enjoy an off season for what it's worth, but that there's never too much of an off season in the NFL. I am reading, as you see my name there, I'm reading Game of Thrones for the third time. I'm going to roll through the entire series again, just because.
Yeah. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, if you leave a question in the comments, we'll get it and we can answer it live on the screen. If you're watching on Twitter, you actually have to tap the Periscope. If you don't, just reply. If you just reply to the tweet we on stage, you have to tap the Periscope, leave a comment, and we'll take your questions. I guess. The biggest news today, I just mentioned about Malkin. Looks like he's gonna be back in the lineup. He did take regular line rushes. And New York did work with the top power play, so that'll be huge. And so my guess would be Evan Rodriguez comes out of the lineup, which is this is most depth the Penguins have had at forward. But since the start of the season, because Evan Rodriguez has not been playing bad, but it looks like if they go back to their lines that they were using before, the game one started in the little scrimmages. It looks like Evan Rodriguez is going to be the next guy out, and he's not a bad 13th option to have. Daniel comes in with a question. He said, now that you've mentioned it, Taylor, what's the worst NHL arena for media that you've been to? It would be the Coliseum, and I haven't been to a ton of NHL arenas outside, the ones in the division and a couple more, but the Coliseum, and that's why they're going to blow it up after this. St. Louis isn't great either. St. Louis doesn't have like a media workroom. It's just kind of a space off the concourse. We can expand this to the other sports. Dale, what about you for football?
Oh man, there's too many to mention. Old Cleveland Stadium used to be just the dump of all dumps. Now that the Raiders are out of Oakland, that place was just atrocious. The new ones are all pretty good. They really have gone all out to kind of leave the media space there, but a lot of them you're kind of looking end zone view instead of the 50-yard line view. But yeah, Oakland and Cleveland were probably the worst. Although I did almost get electrocuted one time at Candlestick Park. Because they had the media section was in a glass enclosure and it started raining, and I'm looking above us, the rain's falling down, and I look down and all of our power cords are laying in puddles of water that are coming into the press box there. So that was weird.
Gerard, what about you for baseball?
So far, like most of my traveling in press boxes has been this Zoom nonsense, so it's tough for me to say mostly I worked at a Citi Field when the world was somewhat normal. I will say there's something called the Pinstripe Bowl that happens every year at Yankee Stadium. December 27th in an open-air press box is not a good time. It's not. It's miserable.
I actually have one of my coldest days that I've ever spent in the press box was in San Diego for a Christmas game against the Chargers in 2000. It got down to about, low 40s in the press box, and San Diego's press box is open, and the wind was blowing in. And I had a touch of the flu that weekend, and man, I was just miserable the entire game.
Yeah, it's not fun. There's a reason that windows exist, and the Yankees just want it to be 1927 all the time.
Since the COVID changes and all the caps, like we're not in the press box in DC anymore. They have like just a section of the stands kind of blocked off, so we're in the stands with like tables that are like way too high. So if if I'm sitting on the side of like one zone, if they go into that zone, like I can't see anything. I am very short, but I know I talked to the other like caps writers. They've had issues with it too. They actually gave us booster seats when I was there for the last series, so making progress. But if the Penguins play the Caps in the playoffs, that's not going to be great. We do have a Steelers question. Tim says, any news on fans at Latrobe?
No news on that yet, but do read tomorrow's Insider because I do have a couple of nuggets from training camp. They're still in the planning stages of that right now. I don't know that they'll keep fans out of there. They may limit the number of fans because it is an outdoor venue. Obviously, you're out, sitting on a hillside or whatever. Maybe they'll limit the number of fans that are actually in the stands. And I wouldn't expect to do much meet and greet. At St. Vincent College, like they've done in the past, where players come out and sign autographs for an hour after practice. That might be a bit too much to ask at this point.
Jeremy says, Gerard, if Cahill goes on the injured list, any chance the Pirates bring up Yajure instead of Kuhl as a starter?
That makes sense for, honestly, Tuesday, his next turn in the rotation, because Kuhl only went 42 pitches. Shelton already said last night he's going to get a second rehab start. Think back to opening day when he was named the starter. He hadn't been built up completely yet. This had been around his workload before, going into the regular season. And, 3 weeks later, he's on the IL. So they're not going to make that mistake twice. Well, they shouldn't make that mistake twice. They already sound like they're not planning to. And Yajure is more or less their, call it the seventh starter if Crow is the sixth starter. So, I would expect to see Yajure on Tuesday, even if he doesn't go to the IL. Maybe not Tuesday, now that I'm saying it, but next week. Yajure is supposed to pitch tonight. That seems to be the logical just next step.
42 pitches, that gets Kuhl through the first inning, right?
Exactly. That's the other thing is that, whether or not he's healthy, he still has to be better than what he was before he went down.
Moneybags on YouTube says, what's something I need to know before attending a night game at Heinz Field? He says he'll be at the Seahawks game.
Let's see. That's pretty early in the season, so I don't know that you're going to have to dress real warm. But outside of that, get there early if you want to get a good parking spot, because I would imagine a lot of fans are going to be they'll be there tailgating early in the day. Even if you park somewhere and go to one of the establishments that are close, and you can watch the afternoon games. That would be my only thing. Don't try to pull in at 7:30 for that night game. Although that, if you're just going to go to the game, that's what you want to do. Try to get there around 7:30. But if you want to take in the ambiance and do everything else, get there early and enjoy the entire North Shore, including Mike's Beer Bar.
Mike's Beer Bar, North Shore Tavern. Again, if you missed in the beginning, North Shore Tavern, they have the Kobe steak on a stone now. They bring out like a stone. So the steak's only like seared on both sides. They put it on the stone. It's an 800-degree stone, so you kind of cook it at your table. It's really cool. Again, if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, just leave a comment, and we'll be here for the next, 20 minutes answering questions. So we have another one. Kevin comes in, long one. What do you guys think about the Lightning obviously circumventing the cap purposely, like the situation with Kucherov? So if you're not familiar with what he's talking about, Nikita Kucherov, one of their best players. He didn't play at all in the regular season because he was injured, but he was skating and practicing for a while. He was able to come back for game one. And so what people think is they kept him out and on the regular season long-term IR longer than they needed to, so they could bring him back in the playoffs when there's no salary cap. So when the playoffs start, there's no salary cap, so that's why he was able to come off long-term IR. So now, like he says, they're playing with a team that's it sees that it's close to $100 million cap hit if there were a cap, when the NHL's salary cap is 81.5. I don't know. I think because he's like I said, he's been skating for a while, so it seems like cap circumvention. That's what it is. It's not cap circumvention that he's playing right now because there's no cap. But I don't know. Is there, Dale? Can anything like this happen in football? Obviously, no cap in baseball, but
no. I mean, it can't happen because all the players are under the cap. If they're under contract, they have to fit under the cap. The rules in hockey are written this way, so you're really not quote unquote circumventing the cap. You're playing by the rules as put forth by the league. If the league didn't want this to happen, and if they don't want this to happen in the future, then they have to close that loophole. Once you sign a contract in the NFL, your contract has to fit under that team's salary cap. You can't keep somebody. You can't have somebody sitting off to the side all season long. Now you could sign somebody. Let's say, for example, a couple of years ago, when the Patriots signed James Harrison after the Steelers released him, but they still had to fit him under the cap. So there's some of that. But again, I think the Lightning in this instance were playing by the rules as set forth by the NHL. So, everybody can complain about it, but the rules are the rules, and they played by the rules.
Yeah, hockey's a little different in that the cap fluctuates. Like you don't go into the season knowing how much really cap space they're going to end up with, and the moves teams make in there's like a daily cap hit, and it just has to all come together to 81.5 at the end. And that's why you see at the end of the season, some teams will end up, not having enough cap space to dress a full lineup for maybe their last couple of games. So they might, play with like 4 or 5 defensemen or be a few forwards short. The cap circumvention, it's just, so if a player's on long-term IR and he doesn't need to be like injury wise, then you're not supposed to be allowed to do that. So I guess that's what this circumvention.
It kind of goes back to Taylor though, the idea that, I mean, you announce injuries in the NHL. Well, he's got a lower body injury. Yeah. Okay, is it a muscle strain or is it a torn ACL? I don't know. I mean, nobody knows. He's got an upper body injury. Is he concussed? Is he missing his head? I don't know. So if the NHL wants to get around this or stop this kind of thing, they need to put out more of an intensive injury report, kind of like the NFL does. Exactly what injury every NFL player has, because let's be frank, the gamblers want to know what those injuries are. So, I think the NHL could do a better job of handling this kind of situation. But I don't think that the Lightning are doing anything that's circumventing the rules. They're playing they play by the rules. And if the player agreed to sit out until the playoffs, what are you going to do? I mean, if he made a stink about it, then everybody would know. Hey, I was ready to go 2 months ago, and they told me they were going to wait. Well, then you have a situation. But we don't know what the extent of the injury was. We don't know, and they're not going to tell us. So they got away with it.
I believe he had surgery, and I think they said pretty early on that he'd be okay to go for the playoffs, which is why people, I guess, are a little fishy about it. Gerard, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess to make a baseball comparison, this is like when you manipulate service time for a prospect. Now, if you wait a certain number of days into the season, you get that extra year of team control, like the Cubs have over Chris Bryant. Another one of those things.
We've never seen a local team do that.
That's, I guess, Bryant's the most famous example, especially going into his free agent year now. But yeah, it's a loophole that's kind of, unethical. And, I guess ethics should be taken into account when making the rules, not when, going about what's already laid out. It's a broken system. Yeah, that's what broken systems are. When they're working, dumb stuff happens, and this is dumb.
there's kind of an equivalent in hockey to what you're talking about, like with the service time, where so to be an unrestricted free agent, you have to either be 27 or have 7 years played. And if your contract ends before then, you're a restricted free agent. But if a player is 24 or 25 and he doesn't have a certain number of games played in the NHL, then he can become an unrestricted free agent early. So sometimes you will see kind of what you're talking about, where a guy they'll put him in the lineup where maybe they might make a change just kind of for that to get him a couple games to reach that mark. It's really rare. A team did it this season. I can't remember who it was. Might have been the Caps, but then you get a couple extra years of having them as a restricted free agent versus unrestricted. Moving on from all the contract talk, though. Swan269, he says, Gerard, do we have a projection on what the Pirates win total will be after 6 weeks of the season?
Which Pirates team? Is it the current just injury report or the actual Pirate? I said a couple weeks back that I don't think this team's gonna lose 100 games. I am not feeling as great about that, but I'm gonna stick with it. I think they're gonna reach 62 at least. And it's kind of weird to think about because sure, you get Haase back, you get Moran back, you get some of these guys back, and maybe they start playing good ball again. But then when do the trades come? So this is not going. The last 2 weeks, it's been a different team, every day. 2 months from now, geez, I couldn't tell you who's even going to be on the team. Ben Gamel was in a glint in our eye a month ago. Now he's starting every day in left field.
Good stuff. We're going to take a quick break, quick commercial break, and we'll be back later with more questions from you, so leave them in the comments in the meantime.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, we are back, and we are brought to you by North Shore Tavern, Mike's Beer Bar. Missed it earlier, North Shore Tavern. They do have the 6-ounce Kobe steak on a stone. Check them out right across from PNC Park. I think 500 local beers or beers at Mike's Beer Bar, 80 beers on tap. It's always local on tap. So check them out. They're always having crowler specials. Look them up on social or Google them to stay up to date on those specials. Tim, a quick one from Tim. Are the Islanders staying with Varlamov? We don't know. Barry Trotz, the past 2 games, when asked about the goaltender, he just said he would have a Russian goaltender in net. Both the Islanders' goaltenders are Russian. Based off the clues from morning skate, Varlamov was the first one off, which usually is an indication that he's going to start. But, the Islanders, before game 2, they had Sorokin working on the starter's net during all morning skate, and then he didn't end up starting. So I don't know if that's gamesmanship or what have you. But yeah, so we don't know for sure. Just have to wait and see who leads the team out on the ice for warmups. Daniel says, hey, Dale, now that rookie minicamp is over, what's your take on Kendrick Green? Can he be an efficient center as a rookie?
I have nothing has changed my opinion based off of what I saw at rookie minicamp. They were literally football in shorts and had 5 linemen there, and they had 1 running back, and so they were very limited as to what they could do in terms of actual on-field work. But certainly he's capable of doing that. He was an immediate starter after moving to the offensive line at Illinois, which is again it's a Big Ten school. We'll see. They like BJ Finney though as well, and they're not going to rush Kendrick Green into the lineup. That's not going to happen. But yeah, he's capable of doing that.
BK says, Gerard, is there going to be a lockout for the MLB next year?
Oh, geez, I hope not. It's a lot of discouraging signs. Listen, don't let what I'm about to say minimize the accomplishments, because it's still damn hard to throw a no-hitter. But it's not good for overall, the game just the plummeting offense and the mystery surrounding what the ball is made of from year to year. And that's before we get into all the other things that were already a problem with, as we just discussed, things like service time manipulation, stuff like that. I think we saw a year where they took a big hit, and both the players and the league recognized how important it is to play. I'm sure it will be a contentious CBA, but I'm going to predict that they will reach a conclusion, before any sort of deadline and lockout, because, like I said, they've seen what it's like without a year, a full year of baseball, let alone a whole nother lockout on top of whatever just came out of a pandemic and how much money they lost.
Mike says, anyway, are we going to change our play calling in the first quarter and switch it with our fourth quarter play calling? Dale, what are the Steelers going to do?
I'm not quite sure what that means, to be honest with you. There's an entirely new play caller this year, so I don't know what to expect. I've talked to Matt Canada. Matt Canada was hired a year and a half ago. Basically, he was hired in January of 2020 to be the Steelers quarterbacks coach. Since he was hired as the quarterbacks coach, we've spoken to him once on a Zoom call. He was named the offensive coordinator of this team in January, and we have yet to speak to him. So I couldn't tell you one way or the other. I've never even met the man in person. I've kind of seen him and that kind of stuff, but that's it. I couldn't tell you one way or the other until we get opportunities to speak to him more. But I would expect, given everything that's come down from ownership and from Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert and what they did in the draft, they're going to run the football. They are going to run the football.
So no first quarter Hail Marys, which I
would think not. Yeah, you're not going to go hurry up in the first quarter and then go fourth quarter. We're going to turtle. No, I honestly, not to be flippant about it, Mike, but I'm not quite sure what you mean by that.
Dave says your takes on Ovechkin's outbursts on his teammates, specifically Samsonov and maybe Schultz last night. So if you didn't see it, the Capitals lost in double overtime. Kind of a rough goal by Samsonov. He went to go play the puck behind the net. It didn't work out. And then I think it was NBC cut to Ovechkin shortly after, and it looked like he was yelling at Samsonov very animatedly. I don't know. I think I see Caps fans saying, oh, that's passion and, that's great. But I also think, if a lot of other players other than Ovechkin did this, if Crosby did it, could you imagine what, the Canadian media would do? They would blow up. I don't think it's something you want to see, on the ice right away. I don't know if Ovechkin wants to talk to him in the locker room. That's a whole other story. But yelling him on the ice right after he let in the double overtime goal, that's not something I think you want to see. Did either of you see what I'm talking about?
No. But I don't have a problem with it. I mean, he's the team captain. He's the face of the team. Their obvious star. It's a double overtime game. They're going to be high emotions in that situation. So, and I don't know what is their relationship like. That's the other part.
There are 4 Russians on the team. They're
right.
Very tight.
So him yelling at his close friend in that situation is different than him yelling at the fourth line center who's just a kid trying to make his way in the league. I think it's a little bit different.
Yeah, and the fact that it's a literal Hall of Famer just sort of carries a little more weight. I know how you mentioned people are weird with Crosby, and I guess they want him to be the 17-year-old that was drafted for the rest of his career. But it goes a lot further when it's this guy. I guess Yadier Molina might be a decent, even though he's not as skilled. Like if I saw Yadier Molina yelling at Edmundo Sosa, yeah, okay, good for you, Sosa. You're learning something from this.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, because Samsonov, he is a rookie, which I think kind of plays into it too. My mom commented Samsonov shouldn't have been on COVID protocol again. Samsonov had COVID earlier in the year and he went on protocol, was out a while. He had a really bad, he said when he came back, he had trouble walking at times. They had to send him down to the AHL for a bit for a conditioning stint, just because he was away from the game that much. And then he was on protocol again recently, but Kuznetsov was also on protocol again recently, and Kuznetsov said that he tested positive again, like he had it again. Kuznetsov got it twice. So Samsonov wasn't on it as long as Kuznetsov, but he was a close contact. If you remember earlier in the season, all the Caps Russians were on the COVID list just because two of them tested positive and they all hang out together. So they all had to miss a couple of games. But Samsonov and Kuznetsov were the two that had it earlier. And then again, Kuznetsov had it again, and it sounded like he had it pretty bad. He just said it this afternoon. Kind of crazy to see that. He was on the list for, I think, like 2 weeks, so they were without him for a bit. Let's see. Pirates, Gerard, since we have no catcher of the future right now, could Stallings get a long-term extension, especially with new and experienced pitchers coming up? Will his age be an issue down the road?
Well, yeah, his age is going to be an issue eventually. But I think it's not going to take a long-term extension to keep Jacob Stallings around. So it's not the worst idea. They like the guy. He's a smart guy. He's good for this club. You know, I don't know what's going to happen in 3 months in terms of the draft. 2 months now, jeez. But again, catcher and first base are going to be positions where, because the present option is actually pretty good, it's going to be a point of focus and call it a rebuild. And let's say 3 years from now, he's going to be, what, 34, 33? If he's still kicking around, it's not going to be expensive. It's not going to be necessary to give him a 5-year deal. He can be had for shorter term deals. Yeah.
Ideally, he's at number 2. I mean, that's
he's just a cerebral guy. He's hitting the ball better than he ever really has. He just works really well with the pitchers, and there's not a ton of catching talent just available in general. Obviously, you see what's going on with their backup Michael Perez right now. It's just tough sledding, and it's not a point of focus in the lineup. It's if the guy can work well with the pitchers, that's all that really matters, and that's not a Pirates specific thing. A lot of teams, view that position that way. We're not all going to be JT Realmuto.
Tim says, do the Steelers finally give Barry the boot?
No, he's still around. In fact, they re-signed him this offseason to a 1-year deal, but then they went and drafted a punter in Percy Harvin, or Presley Harvin. I keep wanting to call him Percy. That would be a much bigger deal if they drafted Percy Harvin. They can save $400,000 by moving on from Jordan Berry and going with Presley Harvin. That's probably where they're leaning, but they have a backup plan there with Jordan Berry. And they gave Jordan Berry the boot last year, and it didn't work out. They brought him back. So,
a different Tim says, "Sorry, joined late. What will the Pirates do with the rotation with Cool coming back and Uhura, etc.?"
Yeah, we mentioned before. Shelton said that Cool's going to have to get another rehab start. Uhura could very easily be an option for next week when I want to say the Cubs and the Rockies are in town. Cahill's next turn is Tuesday. If he can't make that, I believe Uhura pitches tonight, so it might work out for Uhura to just slide into that spot. So yeah, we did talk about that before.
And then Robert wants to know, he didn't hear about Cahill. Is he out?
Out meaning IL, we don't know yet, but he did come out in the second inning yesterday. He had a calf injury. You want to talk about just a lack of communication on injuries? The Pirates might as well be the NHL team. At least I know it's the calf. Seems like every Zoom call they're in the trainer's room right now. We're looking at them right now. So hopefully today we'll find out some more. We'll see if there's an IL stint necessary, and it's a tough spot for a vet that is probably limited on his chances to stay around the game. I wrote about that last night. If you guys want to read DKPittsburghSports.com.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the injuries in the NHL. The Penguins are some other teams will tell you what's up or what they're dealing with. I like Trotz before the series said Varlamov was dealing with a little strain. Like that's way more than like we got from Sullivan all year. I think the most we got out of Sullivan is that he said Casey DeSmith's current lower body injury is related to his previous one, but we don't know what his previous one is. So. I know in the past, but they would at least be open about, if it was a concussion, they wouldn't call it an upper body injury, but that's not even the case this year because Mark Friedman was out for like 2 months with an upper body injury. Then he came back and he's like, yeah, you got to be careful with concussions. And it's like, oh, no one told us it was a concussion. And then Sullivan's latest thing, the last stretch of the regular season and now is that like, if you ask, just for if anyone's going to be available for the game, his phrase is everyone who skated is a game time decision tomorrow. So he won't even give you any specifics there. So that's just that's playoff hockey there, I guess. Seems like a good place to wrap it up. Thanks for joining us. We do this every weekday, 3 to 3:30. We're back at it again tomorrow. I think it's Dayan, Alex, and Tom doing it tomorrow. So get your Penguins, Pirates, Steelers questions ready for them. And we hope you'll join us tomorrow.